Hello, this is the grounds crew. My name is Alex.
And this is Paul.
Today we are going to be doing an overview of the top 25 college football rankings. Paul, take it away.
All right, we're going to start at number 25. And this particular weekend that we're doing this is rival weekend. And not every team will be going against a rival, but if they are, I'll talk a little bit about that. But rival weekend is always a fun time. And let me just start by saying that college football rivals is just extremely different than any other sport, and we'll talk about that some as we go along. So right now, the 25th team is Colorado, and they have had some interesting losses because they have lost both to Kansas and Kansas State. And those two teams have sort of been a spoiler all year long. Kansas State is the 24th ranked team, but Kansas is not a ranked team. They've been on and off the rankings, but those two teams have just been a spoiler to several teams this year. But one of the things that's really fun about Colorado is their fairly new coach. I think he's been there just a handful of years,
Hmm.
Deion Sanders. And Deion Sanders is just he's just a handful of a guy. He's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of talk about him eventually becoming an NFL coach. And him and Nick Saban do some great commercials together. And so Deion Sanders was just a fun-loving guy when he was a player. And I, I'm always worried when a pro player becomes a coach because you don't know how it's going to go. And then I'm always worried when a college coach becomes an NFL coach because that doesn't always go well. Many have tried that. There's even been talk of Nick Saban trying it, and to me, Nick Saban's already proven he's good. He doesn't need to do anything else, and he could go to NFL and just absolutely choke. It happens all the time, and so I would love to see Deion Sanders stay there. He made a team that was practically nothing come up to the 25th already, and I think he's going to continue to build that team. I'm very proud of him.
His kids are on the team, aren't they?
I believe so, at least one of them, and he'll probably make a great NFL player at one time too.
Hmm.
I think that's really neat too.
The quarterback, right?
I think so. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I think that's right. 24th ranked team is Kansas State, and Kansas State is also in the same division as Colorado. They have a great game. Their last game will be against Iowa State, which is number 18. So 24th ranked team playing number 18, Iowa State. That should be a fantastic game tomorrow. And I'm going to say tomorrow, but some of these may be even today. I'm not sure what all was today, but they have beat some interesting teams this year. They've beat Tulane, Arizona, and Oklahoma State. So that's partly why they're ranked the way they are. And like I said, some of those were that upset sort of, whoa, didn't expect them to beat them. And
Right.
so it's great that they've done that. The 23rd ranked team is Illinois, and Illinois is part of that Big Ten that, even though they're called Big Ten, they have more than that now. But they have played five ranked teams this year and have won three of them. And so that is one of the reasons why they're ranked 23rd. That's a lot of ranked teams to play in one year, particularly when you're just Illinois. Illinois has not been a top name for a long time, and so it's good to see them playing that many ranked teams. It's also great to see them winning three of those five games. 22nd team is UNLV, and that's when you go out west. And here's the thing that is so tough about, and I don't know what to say about strength of schedule. That's something that's different in college football than it is in pro football. They did not have a tough schedule. The two losses that they have were within a touchdown, which that means something because not only is it the toughness of your schedule, but how you win as far as how big of a lead and how much you lose by. All that stuff seems to fit into how they think of you in college rankings. And so I am yet to really figure out exactly. My brother and I were talking about this exactly who decides and how many factors there are into your schedule. Because in these next few years, schedules are going to get tighter and tighter and tighter as these divisions keep changing. And so, this UNLV, if they now are ranked 22nd, they're going to want to change their schedule to make it a little tougher, or you're not going to be ranked all the time because your strength of schedule does help you have a better ranking. And so how that makes a difference is they may only have two losses. There may be people above them ranked that have three losses, but their strength of schedule was stronger. And so that is people that follow sports and don't understand that, it doesn't always make sense because it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Why? Like the 21st team is Missouri, and they're part of SEC, and everybody says, well, they're part of SEC, that's why they're 21st and above UNLV. That's not the only reason. Their three losses are against ranked teams, and you can't say that for UNLV. Their two losses were not against ranked teams, and so it makes a difference who you lose against. It makes a difference who you play and what your schedule is, and so it's just very, very important that you pay attention to your schedule. And like I said, particularly in these next few years, as some of these divisions are really starting to change around and who's in them, whoever does the scheduling is going to have to pay attention to the scheduling to make sure that they're getting the right teams. 20th ranked team is Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a fairly new team to SEC. Their first game was against Notre Dame. I have always just hated Notre Dame. Notre Dame has always been overrated. Part of the reason why they stay in the rankings is because they've got lots of money and they give lots of money to college football. So Notre Dame always has its own network that they pretty much buy off, that they all their games are on TV. And so the first game against Texas A&M, they lost. Then after that, Texas A&M beat two top 10 teams, but Texas A&M will end against their rival team, which is Texas, and Texas is a very good team. They're going to have a very tough time playing against Texas, and I do not expect them to win. Anyway, Texas should beat Texas A&M, but that is a very big rival within the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
19, yeah, yeah, you're in Texas, so you know exactly. 19th ranked is BYU. BYU won their first 9 games. I do not know the last time that I remember them ever doing that. It's been a while. And then they lost 2 games in a row, and both of them were within a touchdown. And that that really is what kept them in the top 20 like this, because that's great for them. BYU has not always been a top team that you think about. I'm just thrilled to see them there. I like seeing new teams in these
Mm-hmm.
top 5, new teams that you don't see there all the time, and this is one of those. So I'm really thrilled to see them there. They do again have to watch their schedule because they're one that's not always a tight schedule. Ranked 18th is Iowa State, and their rival is Iowa. They've already played them, and it's just interesting how rivals. Again, I'm going to come back to this many times in the next few rankings here, but their rival team is Iowa. Iowa State game was not the last game this year. It was somewhere in between. Iowa State won, but they beat them by 1 point. Iowa was not even a ranked team at the time. Iowa State was. That stuff never quite makes sense to me, but there's something in the head of this stuff. And you have to understand that some of these rivals go back 50 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them go later than that. Some of them are close to 100 years. So, I mean, it's a big deal. And you've got parents and grandparents that played in this that are there watching this. But they're another one that had 2 losses in a row. One of those was to Kansas. And so, you know, the thing is, momentum and all of that stuff means a lot to college. You have to remember that there's one of the differences of college and pro is that in college they're still in school. They still have all the demands of school going on. They still have all the tests and all the things going on in their life that goes along with being a student. Even though they're there on a sports scholarship, they still have to most of the time maintain a certain grade and so forth to even stay on that scholarship. And one of the things that scares me about this idea of paying them is it's going to take away from some of that, and they're going to be there more for the money and more for the game instead of for the education. And that's a little scary, and that's really being talked about right now. I don't have a problem with them getting some of the money because there's a ton of money in sports, in college sports. There's lots of money to be had. I think college basketball actually makes more money than college football, but it's just there's a lot of money out there. So I don't have a problem with them getting part of the pie. That's not my problem. But I do have a problem if they're going to start saying that, well, this team could give them more. So then you're going to end up with them trading and moving to a different team, and it's going to become almost like pro, and that's not what you want. They are still there for school, and that needs to be kept that way. And so I'm really concerned about that. 17th is Tulane, and they're part of the American division. It's a division that you don't hear a lot about. And Tulane, they lost two in a row again. It was week 2 and 3. And unfortunately, they have not had a tough schedule, but they have dominated, and I mean dominated some games. So that looks good, but it doesn't look good when you're dominating not tough opponents. I personally think that the Army and Tulane are both in this division. Army was in the ranking for a while as well. I think that this conference needs to do better with their scheduling if they want to stay in the rankings at all. Because within the conference, there's not enough there. Tulane and Army are not good enough to keep you ranked. You're going to have to play other types of games, other
Yeah,
types of.
I was gonna ask, with scheduling, I see that Tulane has played two more games than Army has, or am I just
No, that's probably right because one of the things that will come up, Army always plays Navy, and that's the only game that happens that weekend. It's a
mm,
military game, and it's the only game that's scheduled for
okay?
that weekend.
This is, yeah, right now Army's 9-1 and Tulane is 9-3.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
kind of curious, is it because Tulane has played those more games that they get
No, that
the
wouldn't be the only reason why. Uh, Army Navy game is always just by itself.
Mhm.
It's after these last games. It's in between the last games and the bowls,
Right.
and it's played that way every year. And that's a huge rival game. Um, and by the way, just so people understand, the Army Navy game. So the Army would be people that are going to West Point, and the Navy would be people that are going to the Naval Academy. So those are still people that are in school, but it's school for being an officer. And so I um I think it's extremely important that they keep that kind of stuff right there where it belongs. And I'm afraid that we're going to lose that if we start paying. So Tulane is definitely a better team than Army. Army was in the bottom rankings there for a while. And when it comes down to the conference, Tulane will definitely win that American conference, but they're going to
And
have
then
to play better teams.
I do have another question about that conference. I just don't understand how Tulane is ranked. Memphis is in that same conference but has a better record. They're not ranked.
That goes back to that strength of schedule again. They have not played enough top 20 teams. And even though Tulane lost, they still played top 20 teams. I know that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't, okay? But that's the way that college football goes. Uh, strength of schedule means a lot. That's why I'm saying that Tulane is definitely the top team of that division. There's no doubt about it because if they can even play these other teams, that shows me that they are able to at least hold their own. And if they went within their own division, they're gonna demolish them. 16th ranked team is Arizona State, and they have beat three ranked teams. That's not bad. Their big rival is coming up, and that's Arizona State against Arizona. And I'm not sure if I can honestly say this, but I think it's true that every state has like an Arizona State and an Arizona, and I think everybody has like a Texas and a Texas State, and so forth.
Something
I,
like that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think every one of them, but I don't know that that's always what the rival is.
Right.
Sometimes it's something else, but
Like Michigan and Ohio.
yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's not even within the same state, but that should be a game that Arizona State should definitely win. But
Hmm.
again, going back to those rivals, you just never know what's going to happen. One of the best games that should be this weekend is the next one, and that's ranked number 15, South Carolina So I lived in South Carolina for a while, and I lived closer to Clemson, and so it's funny because people in South Carolina, the Clemson is supposedly the rich people, the nice people, the higher end people. South Carolina are the rednecks, even though the whole state is redneck. But it's just funny. Uh, so, uh,
They're
and
just
the
the
other,
high class rednecks.
yes, that's what it is. Yeah, they have 5 teeth instead of four. So, and so, but the other funny thing is the SEC is South Carolina, Clemson is ACC, and so these aren't even in the same division, and yet this is a major rival. Now, South Carolina has played 5 ranked teams this year. Their record of those 5 ranked teams is 2-3. Their rival game, though, will be against Clemson. Now, see, I have a problem, and I always have had a problem with this. If your record with 5 ranked teams is 2-3, then how are you a top 15 team? I, I struggle with that. But that is the way college football is, and this is why I would love sometime, just one time in my life, to be a little fly on the wall in this little room that discusses these things every weekend and figures out what the ranking should be. Because it's like, wait a minute, how can you put them there if they just lost the game? It's,
Hmm.
no, that doesn't make any sense. But it happens all the time, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the rankings. And what really upsets me is that they do preseason rankings, and it's like, oh boy, now you're really putting people on a pedestal that they don't even deserve. I mean, you don't even know. So anyway, the 14th ranked team is Ole Miss. This is another SEC team. You're going to hear a lot of SEC from here on out. The top 15. They beat Georgia. Their rival is Mississippi State, which will be this weekend. And Ole Miss has been a team that's been around a long time. They've been in these rankings before, and yet again, Mississippi State is not ranked, and yet it could still be an amazing thing that they could upset them. Now, the next one's the one I'm going to talk probably the most about and try to explain what this rival stuff is like. Ranked 13th is Alabama. They've beat 3 ranked teams. Their 3 losses. The state of Tennessee claims them this year because Vanderbilt and Tennessee are both from Tennessee, and so they claim them this year. The other loss was Oklahoma. Their rival is Auburn. So let me try to help you. Since I lived in Alabama for 6 years, I will try to help people understand about rivals in college football. So let's say there's 12. Let's just say there's 12 games. Okay, so the record is 10-2 for Alabama, and the record that same year is 4-8 for Auburn. And
This is hypothetically, right?
yeah, this is very hypothetical. That's not
Okay.
this year. Um, so it comes down to this rival game, and Auburn wins. So one of their 4 wins is Alabama. In the state of Alabama for that year, Auburn is the winner. Even though Alabama's 10-2, Auburn is 4-8. Now, there's no other sport that would say something like that. That doesn't make sense. I mean, in baseball, you don't say Baltimore and Yankees, okay, we lost every series, we lost every game, but we won every game against the Yankees. We are winners. No, that's not the way you play the game, okay? Uh, you, you know, so there's something.
Everyone beat the White Sox this year.
Yeah, there you go. So there's something different about this rival thing that it's called the Iron Bowl. If I read correctly, this is like the 88th year in a row. And the overall ranking, Alabama has won like 50 some of them. And so the other thing that you have to understand about this is people don't follow they follow a person through. See how can I explain this? Okay, so Bryce Young was the quarterback for Alabama. Now he has gone on to what is it, Carolina, I believe, Carolina Panthers. If tomorrow, well, Carolina's already played this week, but if next week Carolina was told that Bryce Young was going to start, there are people from Alabama that are going to watch that game. They could care less about the Carolina Panthers. It has nothing to do with the Carolina Panthers. They're not Carolina Panthers fans. They are Bryce Young fans. So a better example is Peyton Manning was from Tennessee Volunteers. When he went to Indianapolis Colts, all of a sudden people from Indianapolis or from Tennessee are becoming Indianapolis Colts fans. Not because of anything but Peyton Manning. That's the only reason why. And so that happens throughout people's careers in particularly these types of teams like Alabama. They follow these people almost like a religion, if I could say it like that. And I don't mean it quite that bad. It's not quite that bad, but it's pretty close. I'll go ahead and give this example. So, I've been raised in church all my life and have been in church and been involved in ministry and so forth. If you had a bus ministry at your church and tomorrow is the Iron Bowl and you wanted to go calling for bus kids and you knew the game starts at 12 o'clock, you dare not go knock on a door at 1 o'clock in the afternoon somewhere in the state of Alabama if you know particularly that they're an Alabama or Auburn fan, because it's a bit of an insult. It really is. It's like, what are you doing? You just don't do that. Um, when my wife and I lived there, we weren't necessarily fans of either one, and so it was a day that sometimes we went shopping for Christmas because nobody's going to be out. I'm serious. I mean, it's that big of a deal. And so, unless you understand that about the South, it's real. And football is so big that, I mean, Thursday night you're gonna have your pep rally for your Friday night football in high school, and then you're gonna have your Saturday that runs into this college football. And then if you find out Bryce Young's gonna be playing, you're gonna watch that game on Sunday. So you're just gonna have a continuous weekend of watching football. And it's that big of a deal. And so I think we need to understand that when you get down into the SEC, particularly, and know those divisional and rival games, those are huge games, and those states or those places, it is a thing that will last throughout the year. I have seen bumper stickers where the bumper sticker had both of Alabama and Auburn, and that meant that somewhere in that family there was a fan of each. Okay, that's huge because when they watch that game, you're going to have somebody sitting on another side of the couch that's going for the other team.
I know
I know
exactly how
exactly
that's
how that's
like.
like. Yeah,
I've got my Red Sox jacket on, and I grew up in a Yankee household.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so that can almost cause a fight in the home. I mean,
hmm
and when you get into people that drink and get crazy on top of that, it's a big deal. Okay, so okay, 12.
Just real quick,
Yeah, yeah.
since we're speaking of Alabama, what does Tua do? What does Tua do?
Wow. You know what? Miami just now lost in Green Bay, and the
hmm
talk just comes around again. Can they handle anything below 55 degrees? Um, that's, if you can't play below 55 degrees in football, why are you even playing the game? I mean, that's all I know to say. They ha- they have two more games. I believe it's Cleveland and New York Jets that are there. Well, even if you play in the daytime, this time of the year, you're going to be in the 30s more than likely.
hmm
Well, if you can't win below 55, you don't have a chance. And the thing is, they had a chance. They could have won against Green Bay. Now Green Bay is a decent team this year, but they had a chance. And they have the pieces. When they are at 55 and above, they play great ball. And so it's
hmm
like, guys, are you not tough enough? I mean, what's the problem? I don't know what to say.
You think it's his head injuries?
No, because it's not just him. The whole team seems to be in bad shape whenever it's cold. And so, but yeah, as far as the passing and some of it, yeah, it's bad. But I, yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's very difficult to understand how that you can't when half of the games are going to be played outdoors in freezing weather. How are you going to last in the division or in football? Period. If you can't play like that. I just don't understand that.
hmm
So yeah, I don't get it. But anyway, no, his as far as what little bit of some of the I didn't see the game, but I saw some of the stuff from it. He looked good. I don't know that he looked like he has a concussion, but
Well, he doesn't
but
anymore.
Well, I
But
know that.
he's had a lot though. That's the
Even
problem.
the repercussions of a concussion.
Yeah.
So, all
I
right.
mean, I'm afraid for him to get one more.
Oh, I
Like,
am too. Most definitely.
should
Most
he
definitely.
retire, in your opinion?
If he gets one more serious one, yes, I do think he should.
Think he should even continue playing now?
Hmm. Uh, the way I saw him in those clips, I would say yes.
Yeah, so one more and he's done. You think?
Yeah, yeah, because I mean he's been sidelined several games this year already.
Now, all those Alabama fans won't be Miami fans if he retires.
Oh, you're right about that. Yeah, you're very right about that. Um, all right, ranked number 12 is Clemson, and I have actually had the privilege to be at some Clemson games, so I'll talk about that in just a minute. But they lost their first game. This is so unfair. Their first game was against Georgia. That's tough. I mean, you're getting the best team, and they lost big.
Possible
30,
Heisman winner, game
yeah,
one.
really, really. 34-3 was the score of that game. Everybody thought you don't have a chance. You guys are done. Okay.
Mhm.
Their schedule was a little bit on the soft side. They even lost to Louisville. And then again, people were like, what is going on? Dabo Sweeney has been their coach for a long time, clear back to when I lived there.
Still coaching?
He's still coaching there.
Saw
And
him like at a stadium years ago, but
let me tell you something. I have been to even the Clemson, South Carolina game in my life. I've been to probably 6 to 8 Clemson games.
Mhm.
I had a parishioner that had season tickets, and I went to several games with him in those 6 years that I was there. And let me tell you something. Unless you've ever been to a high ranking team, because I've been there when they were top 15 ranked team. I've been there when it was going to be televised. I mean, you go to the campus and you have to park like 3 to 5 miles away from the stadium. And when you're walking there, it's just one huge parade of just tailgaters everywhere. And some of those people won't even go to the game. They're just there to tailgate. They're just there to party. And it's just a flood of the colors of Clemson. It's just a flood of it. Okay. And then you finally get in there and it's just an absolute we we set up so high. We used to tease that we could see Japan from where we were. Okay. I mean it was crazy
I.
how high we were. All right. I mean it was so high.
So you're
And yet
telling me if it were to rain, you'd be the first to know?
absolutely. Okay. And it has. Okay. And I remember just we're not down in this stadium. We are way up there.
Hmm.
And the sound just roared through your body, literally roared through your body. I kid you not. And when they stood up and started jumping, the whole thing moved, vibrated. Now, this is concrete.
Hmm.
So I can't even tell you the electricity that goes through the place. It's just crazy. And I've been there with teams that weren't South Carolina. It was just a no-name team, and it's like, good grief, what would it be like if this was like the final? You know, and it's crazy. I mean, seriously, the electricity at a college football game is insane. All right, and so I just want people to understand that if you've never been to one, it's electric. I mean, it's just on fire. Okay. And so Clemson plays South Carolina. That could be the game of the week right there. It should be huge and should be a great game. Ranked number 11th is Boise State. Um, their one loss is to Oregon. Oregon is undefeated this year. They're ranked number one, and they only lost by 3 points. That's huge. That's a big deal. But Boise State has had a little bit of a soft schedule. Now, I have always teased. We have somebody down here in Florida that is from Boise area in Idaho, and I have always teased him that they are one of the biggest cheating teams because they have a blue field, okay, and they wear blue. And if you've ever even tried to watch one of their games, it is extremely hard to follow them because I mean, so some teams will have a white out or something like that. They'll have a blue out, okay, and in the stadium they will have all their fans come in blue, and I mean it'll blow you away how blue it is. It's like, oh, good grief, where is everybody? You know, and it looks like camouflage. It's crazy, but it's really cool. And he told me one time that it has now become illegal for any other field to do that. Uh, but they're allowed to have it because they grandfathered in. They're no other stadium will ever be allowed to do it.
How do you grow grass with a blue color?
I'm assuming that's what we do. That's what they call bluegrass. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I do not know. I would love to know that.
Do they just spray paint it all? I mean,
I have no idea. I honestly don't. I would think it would take an awful lot of upkeep. I really do.
yeah,
I
that
would
I
think
bet
it
it
would take
does.
more upkeep than green. But anyway, it has been there a long time, and it looks cool. I won't deny it. But I've always called it a cheating field, but it's really not. I don't know that it's any big deal.
Unless the other team has a blue uniform, blue
Oh, well,
pants too.
yeah. Wow. Uh, So ranked number 10th is Indiana, and Indiana has typically been known as a basketball team, and so it's pretty cool to see them up here in the rank 10. Their one loss so far is to Ohio State. They are one that has had a very soft schedule, and again, it just blows me away that they're even in the top 10 when they've had a soft schedule because typically that is not what's going to happen. It Big Ten Big Ten is a very hard conference, very hard division there, and it should be interesting to see if they do better in the future. Ranked number ninth is SMU. SMU is a fairly new team to the ACC, and they've come in and just dominated the SEC. Their one loss is to BYU, and when they lost to BYU, it was by 3 points. And at that time when they lost, it was early in the season, and everybody didn't know that BYU was going to be a seasoned team,
Hmm.
a ranked team at that time. So it was like, whoa, what's going on with SMU? And then all of a sudden they beat two other ranked teams, and so it was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, they're doing okay. We'll probably be in the ACC finals, and it should be interesting because it'll probably be SMU and Clemson, and that should be wow, what a game that could be if that ends up being what it is. Um, a fun team to watch, and my brother is from there, so I hear a lot about them. Is Tennessee? They're ranked number 8th, and they have had a very interesting schedule. They have played four ranked teams. They're 3-1. They've beat Oklahoma and Alabama. They have lost to Georgia. Their last game is against Vanderbilt, which again, that's another Tennessee game. Now, interesting. Vanderbilt beat Alabama, okay, but Tennessee beat Alabama. So it'll be interesting to see if Vanderbilt can beat Tennessee. It just goes back to that rival stuff again. I don't understand how these rivals can sometimes get in the head of some of these. I sometimes wonder, particularly like top 10 teams, I wonder if sometimes they overlook these unranked things and think, well, we're going to the bowl, so we're just not going to play that good. I don't know if that's what happens, but something just, I don't know. I
They
don't
probably
really
just get ahead of themselves. Be like, oh, this is gonna be an easy one.
exactly. That's what I think. That's what I think. And that just happened tonight. And ranked number 7 is Georgia, and they played five ranked teams, and they were 3-2. They've beat Clemson and Texas and Tennessee. They've lost to Alabama and Ole Miss. And tonight they did something that just blows me away. Georgia played Georgia Tech. That's their rival game. Their game was tonight here on Black Friday. They went into an 8 overtime. It's the second time ever in college football. Okay, they won 44-42. Now, this is a game that they should have dominated all over Georgia Tech. Now, I remember the days when Georgia Tech was known for playing some pretty mean ball. They did some trick plays. They used to have some trick plays that they did of with their special teams, and they were quite the team back in the day. But I don't know recently. I haven't paid attention to them. But this should not have happened. Georgia is a good team, and I just don't understand how um, they almost got beat, but they did. But they almost got beat, but they didn't. They did win.
Keyword is almost. Keyword is
I
almost.
know. I know. Yeah. So it brings us up to the sixth rank, which is Miami, and they have one loss, which is to Georgia Tech, by 5 points after nine straight wins. And Miami has had a very um, soft schedule as well. I've been trying to. I don't know. I don't. I haven't paid attention enough to Florida football. I'm not sure exactly what is considered the rival down here. The rival, I don't know if it's Miami, Florida State or Florida, Florida State. I'm not sure exactly what's considered the rival game of Florida, but Miami is an ACC team, and so I'm not sure exactly which one. But the other two teams are not good this year, Florida and Florida State. Um,
Florida State.
is it? Okay. So Notre Dame is ranked number fifth, and they are part of an independent division. And so because of that, they can play whoever they want, whenever they want. And they have played four ranked teams, and this is why they get ranked so good because they're 4-0. But here they are, one loss to North Illinois. Who in the world is that? Who knows? But they lost by 2 points. Here's the funny thing about them. Yes, they play ranked teams, but since they can sort of pick and choose who they want, they play a lot of those 15 to 25 ranked teams. They don't play a lot of
Mm.
those top 10 ranked teams, okay? But it still gets them in the right spot. And so they've always been a little sneaky team, is all I can say. And again, I'm being a little biased. I should be careful here. I'm really not anti-Catholic. I'm really not. I promise. But Notre Dame has been around for a long time. They've got a lot of history in college football, and they'll always be there. It seems like, and they always play some good ball. So, all right, fourth ranked team, Penn State. Penn State. Penn State has had the pie in their face ever since what happened with their coach just the last 15 years or so. And so when all that scandalous stuff came out about their previous coach that was, I think, almost dead by the time they found it all out. But anyway, Penn State, their one loss is to Ohio State, which was by 7 points. The funny thing about Penn State is that they seem to be one of those teams that there's multiple rivals. Maryland seems to have it out for them each year. West Virginia seems to have it out. Ohio State seems to have it out for a rival with them. And maybe it's because of their location. Maybe it's because of Penn State's always been known as a pretty tough team, and they've been part of the Big Ten and have shaken that up a lot through the years. So Penn State is a good team, and they have been ranked many, many times. And so I expect them to do good this year and continue that going forward. Third ranked team is Texas, and Texas has played four ranked teams. They've been 3-1 against those ranked teams. They played three ranked teams in a row. Just my opinion, they've had one of the toughest schedules, period. And like I said earlier, their last game will be against Texas A&M, who's another ranked team, and that will go down as a great game as well. And Texas has a good chance of being the champs overall this year. Texas plays some good ball, and they've done some good stuff this year. Ohio State, I've lived in Ohio as well, lived 6 years in Ohio. They have some very dedicated fans. They have one loss to Oregon. That loss was by 1 point. They have played three top five teams, which is huge. That's a big deal. Their rival is Michigan, which they play this weekend. They should dominate Michigan, but let me just switch long enough to pro football to talk about today's game. So today was the Vegas Raiders against the Kansas City Chiefs. Vegas Raiders came into this game 2-9, and the Chiefs came in with one loss, and that loss was just a week or so ago with the Buffalo Bills. But I mean, they should have dominated them, and yet they won by what 44 to 47 or something like that. It was something super close. And it came down to the Raiders having the ball, and they could have won the game. And so this is several games now that the Chiefs have barely won, and this is considered a little bit of a rival between Raiders and Chiefs. And so rival games are just extremely interesting, and they win by small amounts. But Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers, it always comes down to almost a field goal or less, or I mean a touchdown or less, usually a field goal. And it's just interesting how that happens. Don't be shocked if tomorrow Ohio State Michigan is an extremely close game, even though Ohio State should dominate them, should absolutely destroy them. But probably won't happen the way they go. I don't know why, but that's the way they go.
Going to NFL for a second, speaking of rivals, um, it is crazy what like a rivalry could do. I remember a couple years ago. Now this would probably be close to 7, 10 years ago, something like that. The Patriots were playing the Jets. This is back when Tom Brady was at his highest. Nothing could really stop the Patriots. And then they're playing the Jets, and the Jets get it to overtime. Now, this is just something that came to my mind. The Patriots won the coin flip, and the guy said that they wanted to kick it. An overtime coin flip. But he like then tried to defend it. It was like, no, no, I want to receive the kick, receive the kick. No, you're too late. You already said it. So yeah, I yelled at the TV that day, but it's okay. It's okay. God is good all the time.
The number one team is Oregon.
Love that transition.
Yeah, yeah. The number one team is Oregon, 11-0. They should finish 12-0. Funny enough, they've only played two ranked teams. They beat Ohio State by 1 point. The other ranked team was Illinois, and they crushed them 38-9. Um, so I think Ohio State, yes, they lost to Oregon. They lost by 1 point, but they have played three top five teams. Is that a rougher schedule? Yeah, it is. So I just don't know how to defend the strength of schedule. I've never quite understood exactly where to put it. Um, and
Well, zero losses is hard. No
it is.
matter no matter your strength of schedule.
I agree. I agree
And
100%
so I mean
because
I agree with Oregon being number 1. I mean they haven't lost a game.
right.
But
Well, Ohio
some of
State
these
lost.
other some of these other rankings like it's like well they've lost less games but their strength of schedule but it's really hard to balance it.
It is. It is. And I would not want to be the one that has to figure it all out because, like I said, here's the other thing. You got to remember that rankings change per week.
Hmm.
So, because of that, when you played them, they may have been ranked, but now they're not.
Right.
And so that also makes it a little strange.
And I think it's impressive that Oregon has gone undefeated so far, especially since they just lost their quarterback to the draft.
I know, and that could play into tomorrow's game. So, that's part of this whole that's part of this whole thing about paying them and doing all this stuff is how is it going to play into bowls and all that type of stuff because sooner than later they're going to know where they're going NFL and
Hmm.
that's going to play in the way that well for instance okay if I was an NFL well okay this goes back into this in football and in NFL there's owners in college there's not owners. There's boosters and all those types of things. So an owner could step in and say, okay, well, I don't want you to play in the bowl because I don't want you to get hurt. Well, what's the team supposed to do then? You're going to use your second or third ranked quarterback in a bowl game and you're going to look like an idiot? I mean, so these are the types of things that's the politics of football that I don't
Hmm.
quite understand. It's different in minor league baseball. In minor league baseball, it doesn't matter if double A you win that division. That you are prepping to get up to the MLB. That's what you're there for. I
Right.
mean that's what the whole division is there for. So it doesn't matter if you lose the best pitcher and he goes up in October. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. And the whole team is thrilled. Yay, man, you get to go. Good for you. Um, but
Payday.
exactly. But now we're gonna, lose our best pitcher. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of sadness, but overall, everybody's like, woohoo! This guy gets to move on and do his dream.
Take me with you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, that's not the case in college football. I mean, in college football, if they're going to lose their best guy or lose him mentally or physically because he doesn't want to play so hard because he doesn't want to get hurt to get to the NFL, hello, well, goodbye. Might as well bench the guy. He's not worth anything out here. So,
Well,
I
that goes into back to paying them. Like if you're
exactly,
gonna pay them, they better play if they're not hurt.
That's exactly right.
And since you mentioned baseball, I have to say this. I have to. Since college football players are now getting paid, are we ever going to see deferred contracts in college football, dude? No. Mhm. Even less than that. I mean, if you're good enough to go at the high school level, or at least you think so, why not prove it at college first? Ooh, such a talent wasted. I I was able to see him in person once when he had a good game. He actually had a great game. And that's all I'm going to say on Wander Franco. I'm going to stay on the positive. Mhm. They're going to do stupid. Moral of the story, uh, contract deferrals, don't be stupid. All right, next time we'll probably be talking about how the Dodgers are ruining baseball. Until then, this is the Grounds Crew. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you next time.